All right, everyone, we start off today with, what shouldn't really be huge news, but for some reason it's being memed all to death, which is the Tennessee legislature expelling a couple of its members for breaching their legislative rules there. House members Justin Jones and Justin Pearson being expelled by the Tennessee legislature. Now, what were they expelled for? If you are a lemming and a mind slave and you only have time to read a couple of sentences, you probably think that they were expelled for participating in a protest while black. Seriously, go to Twitter, look it up. By the way, if you have community notes, prepare to be flooded today with a bunch of fact-checking on the tweets about this. Virtually all of the legacy media right now is reporting, and it's a lie by omission, and in some cases within their articles, a lie by structure. Of course, they bury the truth several paragraphs down where nobody ever sees it because nobody cares about their shit. You would believe that several members of the Tennessee House were expelled because they took part in a protest. And to cap it all off, the move is racist because they happen to be black individuals. That's not actually what happened, though. If you dig 2-3 sentences deeper, like 99% of people don't have the attention span to do, you'll find out exactly why they were expelled. And this has been a story for several days up to the vote for expulsion here. By the way, a third member not expelled. Well, they should have expelled them too. It's time to get tough on the heckler's veto people, and I'll explain my feelings on that in a moment. What happened is that these two individuals weren't just protesting. They were using the heckler's veto, and they happened to do it within the chamber itself. They were breaching decorum and basically preventing normal business in the legislative fashion from being issued, from being done. The heckler's veto is not a form of free speech. It is an attempt to rob others of theirs. The Tennessee House and all other government bodies, at least on civic paper, are collectively owned by the constituents thereupon who give tax money to fund them. They have opinions too. The fact that a few hundred indignant individuals, mostly a bunch of fucking moron TikTokers, show up to screech about how they hate guns so much does not mean that there aren't the vast plurality of people in Tennessee that fucking oppose your opinion. They have the right, through those individuals that they've elected to their state Congress, to make their voices heard on various issues. And it's not, I don't even know that guns were the proceeding that they were talking about at the time. I think it was, but I'm not 100% sure. Seems that leftoids can get mad at literally anything. I don't really have a sense of humor. That's why they're all prematurely aging. That and all the soy, the soyant that they drink. Their lack of protein in their diet that comes from anything other than xenoestrogen-filled tofu. These individuals weren't speaking. They were shouting slogans through a fucking bullhorn while leading protesters unlawfully through the chambers in order to disrupt what was going on. Now, while I'm not a statist and I don't really care about my decorum sort of side of things, I do think that we need to shut down the heckler's veto permanently. Now, this goes beyond simply the verbal heckler's veto. We've seen instances where these moron rioters block off traffic. You could stop an ambulance. You could cause somebody to be denied a transplant. Somebody's kid is sick. They're vomiting all over themselves. It takes them an hour more to get to the hospital and they die of dehydration in the meantime. Somebody can get hurt. A protester can get hurt too. That happens occasionally. That's, by the way, a big star-studded affair in the legacy media. I noticed that they never said anything about Sequoia Turner when she was killed by a rioting BLM member in the middle of the road when her family tried to divert around the riot that they were holding in the middle of a goddamn intersection. I seem to recall that one is a name that we don't need to say perennially in the name of gun violence or something like that. It's bullshit. The heckler's veto is not free speech. If you're going to dwell in the halls of your state Congress or you're a sheriff or a judge or something, about time that we hold people to account, especially when they're in public positions. This goes in both directions, so-called directions, by the way. For the dichotomously minded, I'll word it that way. When there's an abuse of power by a public official, it's about time to actually fucking do something about it. Congratulations to the Tennessee legislature. It's good that you had the balls to do this, knowing beforehand that because these individuals happen to have black skin, you're going to get called a bunch of hooded Klansmen. By the way, in response to this, by the way, follow Andy No on Twitter if you want the up-to-date skinny on what's going on here. In response to the expulsion, which is not a form of violence, of several House members who were heckling on the House floor who are disrupting proceedings and doing the antithesis of their job, which is to participate in said proceedings. In response to that, now they're threatening arson. These are totally sane people we're dealing with. Totally, we can deal with them. Just taking the knee is exactly what we need to do. That'll stop them from being angry, from being morons, from being a bunch of rioters. No, it won't. The way to deal with them is to get tough, motherfucker. It's about time that states legalize certain actions when people are blocking the roads. I won't get more into that because it's a YouTube video, of course, as well. It's about time that we do expel members of standing government bodies when they act like this. If they're going to act like a bunch of petulant kids, well, kids aren't supposed to be holding office. Go wet your diaper somewhere else. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. Go ahead and call them a racist. Dude, this is the leftoids you're dealing with. They think everybody's racist. They even think half their fellow leftoids are racist because they had an opinion 10 years ago on Tumblr that no longer happens to be popular among Marxists or something like that. Just deal with it. Let them say all of their bullshit online. That's basically their echo chamber. They run TikTok, so let them go to their panty wetting corner and go bitch and piss themselves on TikTok. And in the real world, punish them when they do stuff like this. If I show up at a political event and I start shouting through a bullhorn random slogans, or shouting fascist, or commie for that matter, simply because I dislike what the person is saying, I'm not getting anything across other than I disagree with you. Well, you can say I disagree with you and wander out, or you can debate the point. You don't have the right to prevent the other person from saying the things that you disagree with. The ma-fascism, ma-Nazis thing, hasn't this goddamn canard gotten a little bit fucking old? And by the way, where are all the liberals condemning the calls of violence here? Because there's collective judgment at this point in the Western world, it seems. Why aren't you condemning the concept that anyone should be indignant or boil it down to race when people who are disrupting taxpayer-funded proceedings, which are fined by the majority of the population of that state, that's the only thing the state body represents in the first place, that they shouldn't be punished? Of course they should be expelled. Yes, absolutely. The third member here, and unfortunately they only expelled 2 of them. That's the only problem that I see here from them. Expel them all. Any rumbling of that sort of behavior should be zero tolerance policy at this point. It's about time that we start reestablishing some degree of discourse in the country. Clearly, we're having a problem doing that in public because we've got big tech companies censoring people and the government at the federal level encouraging them or even coercing them to do so. At the very least, can the people that we elect, for better or for worse, most of them are shitheads anyway. I would agree with the left on that, although your representatives tend to be the shitheadiness of them. Although that may be true, at the very least, can they debate on the House floor? Can judges go through their proceedings? Can Senate members talk to one another without using a bullhorn? Come on, Jesus Christ. Not a whole lot left to fight for if we can't establish the basic rudiment of interpolitical debate in a legislative session without people dragging out more racism. What are you even talking about? The disinfo about this is sheer, though. If you look at any of the mainline articles on this, it's the two black legislatures were expelled by a bunch of evil Republican Klan members for the simple act of protesting against gun violence. That's the opposite of truth. It has no bearing on the story whatsoever. But most people right now seem to believe that bullshit because, of course, it's all prepackaged. The legacy media goes into their meetings with one another, probably on Zoom and shit, and they talk about what the stories of the day will be and how they're going to spin it, and they make the stories up, and they literally, they don't report the news, they make the news. That's the problem in our society. A lot of people are fooled by outright government-sponsored, state-affiliated, in NPR's case, propaganda. That's about all. Peace out.